In a time of trillion-dollar deficits, Defense Secretary Robert Gates says the U.S. must change the way it buys weapons. The secretary told our Peter Cook that he's willing to cut back on some defense programs, but Congress must go along with it as well. One example is the Lockheed Martin-made VH-71. This is a new presidential helicopter that the White House doesn't want and is already billions of dollars over budget.
Even to finish the first 5 helicopters would mean that you would require, first of all, another $2 billion for an aircraft this president and no future president will ever ride in. It would be about $1 billion a helicopter. It has less range than the helicopters the president flies today. We are already on track in terms of beginning to work with the White House, the Navy, acquisition folks, to begin talking about how do we restart this program and build a helicopter that the nation can afford and that will protect the president and give him the communications he needs. But the VH-71 is the poster child for an acquisition program gone seriously wrong, and there's no reason to throw good money after bad.
Let me get you to give me your perspective on defense spending beyond this next fiscal year. You've made some tough choices here, but the reality is this is still a bigger defense budget than the year before. What about the out years? We see a deficit right now, $1.5 trillion next year, expected to grow as well. Do you expect this president to come to you and say, Robert Gates, I need you to cut defense spending in the future?
Well, you know, we've done this before. We've been down this road. We did it in the early 1990s. We did it probably 4 or 5 times in the 20th century. And the result with significant cuts in defense is that you always end up having to go back up because the world hasn't changed. The threats out there haven't changed. If anything, it's gotten more complex and more dangerous. And so my view is what we need is a steady defense budget that we can plan for and that provides modest, real growth each year that allows us to sustain the programs that we have. It's the stability that we need, and I don't think that the rates of growth need to be significant or very high, but they need to be predictable and they need to be sustained. And I think that's the key, and that's the argument that I will be making to the president and to the Congress going forward, is that to sustain the programs that we have, the Defense Department needs real growth, but I believe it can be modest, but it needs to be sustained over the long term.